Welcome to the show. Just like every week, we'll be talking to you this week about our normal features, our community champion, our quote of the week, our legal tip, well, our sports person of the week. My guest this week will be Lee Paul IV of Paul Associates here in Wheeling, talking about the real estate market, the different things affecting the market, and what you might expect to see as we move forward here in the greater Wheeling area. But first, we'll start out with our community champion. And this week, it's actually two people that are receiving our Community Champion of the Week award. Crystal Lucas and Larry Kinney Jr. They are the chairpersons of the 4th annual Moundsville Upper Ohio Valley Out of the Darkness Walk for Suicide Prevention. This is an issue that is important, and it's one that they certainly should be recognized for. So many people are taking their own lives, many of them children. It's a problem. It's a problem here in the area. And the more that they can do and others can do to draw attention to this and make people realize there are ways to help. There are ways to help for those that are having issues and considering taking their own lives. There are ways to help those who have loved ones who have taken their own lives, and to draw attention to let people know they're not alone. It's a very, very worthy cause and something that they should be proud that they're doing. Their event is coming up here in about a week, and all those that can participate, please do. But even if you're not participating, just be aware of this very important issue. And congratulations to Crystal and Larry for taking on this very important issue, bringing it to light, and making sure that more people are aware that there are things that we can do about it. So they are our Community Champions of the Week here on the Jamie Bordas Show. Next, our quote of the week. And this week's quote is especially meaningful to me because it was suggested by one of our recent Community Champions of the Week, and that's Becky Schilling-Rodacher suggested this quote. She was the Community Champion of the Week just very recently here on the show, and she sent me a very nice thank you note for recognizing her and the work that she does with the soup kitchen and all the other things she does in the area. But she also referenced this quote, and I wanted to make sure I included it as the quote of the week. It actually comes from St. Teresa, formerly Mother Teresa, but recently canonized by the church. And the quote of the week is this: "What can you do to promote world peace? Go home and love your family." That is our quote of the week, and it really resonates. When you think about, I'm just one person, so what can I do about world peace? I'm not the President of the United States. I may not be in a position of power, but what I can do is my part, one person at a time, and that's go home, love your family, so you can make sure that those around you feel peace, that they're at peace, and that they go out and promote peace toward one another. So, the church recently did recognize Mother Teresa, formally canonized her. She's now Saint Teresa. And to have someone that during my relatively young lifetime that I was able to look up to, such as Mother Teresa, become a saint is something special because most of the saints we think about, St. Peter back in the early days of Jesus, other saints from many, many hundreds of years ago, but this is someone who just recently was living here in our own time and became a saint. So I think it's very good, and I appreciate the fact that Becky suggested this quote from St. Teresa as our quote of the week. So that is the quote of the week here on the Jamie Bordas Show. Next, our legal tip, like we do every week. And this week, there's a reason for this one also, but the tip is you don't have to talk to the police. And why is that the tip this week? Well, a lot of attention being given recently to the John Benet Ramsey unsolved murder case from 20 years ago. Documentaries going on, specials on Dateline and other places. My wife, Stacy Bordas, wrote a great blog kind of analyzing the different theories and the issues surrounding this, and it can be found on my law firm's website. If you want to take a look at her blog, we're on our Facebook page. But one of the big issues there is, well, these parents, they didn't talk to the police, or they resisted talking to the police for a long time, and then when they did, they wanted to have a lawyer there, so they must have done it. Well, perhaps they did. It's an unsolved murder. We don't know who did it. The point of the matter is, though, is that you don't have to talk to the police, and when you do, it is a good idea to have a lawyer there. My firm, not heavily involved in criminal law. We've done some very high-profile cases in the past, but not a regular part of our daily practice. But one thing I knew, even when I learned in law school at Notre Dame, one thing I've seen as I've continued on here in my practice of law is that sometimes people do jump to conclusions, whether it be police, prosecutor. They're trying to do their jobs, but sometimes they don't have all the evidence right away. And so it is a good idea because some things that you say can be used against you, of course, even if you didn't do it. And if you did do it, you certainly want to be protected and know, things that you shouldn't say that could perhaps make things worse for you. So you don't have to have the police there, you don't have to talk to the police, but if you do, it's a good idea to have an attorney there. And sometimes it's better not to talk to them at all. That's protected by our Constitution. The Fifth and Sixth Amendments give us the right to remain silent, the right to have counsel present, and there's a reason for that, is that it's more important that no one who's innocent go to jail than it is that someone guilty escape, because you don't want an innocent person going to jail for the rest of their lives. Sadly, though, of course, in cases like the John Benet Ramsey case, sometimes we do never solve the crime, and perhaps if the parents had been more forthcoming, maybe if they were talking more, maybe the police would have been able to solve that, whether it be the parents who were involved in it or just if they had additional information that would have led to the person who did do it. So that's our legal tip of the week here on the Jamie Bordas Show. When we come back from break, we'll be talking to Lee Paul IV about the real estate market here in Wheeling, talking a little bit about his background as well and what his firm is going to be doing in the future here. Also maybe even talk a little bit of Cowboys and Mountaineers football with Lee. Stay with us here on the Jamie Bordas Show.
So, how was your first day?
Long. So, Josh asked me about you.
Daddy's home. Go get him.
For your home, for your life, for more than 50 years. The Hardwood Specialists. DeNoon Lumber.
Panhandle Cleaning and Restoration has been restoring homes after disasters for nearly 4 decades. Through that experience, we present Panhandle Custom Homes, Kitchens, and Baths. We handle your entire project, from concept to completion, working with you every step of the way. From the budget-minded upgrade to a fully custom remodel, you can trust the Panhandle name. Panhandle Custom Homes, Kitchens, and Baths. Welcome home.
Welcome back to the show. Thanks for being with us again this week. We've been talking about our usual awards and tips and quotes, but now it's time for our guest of the week, and that's Lee Paul IV from Paul Associates. He's here with us, and we'll talk to him right now. Lee, thanks for being here on the show, and thanks for watching the show here in recent weeks.
Thanks for having me.
You know, Lee, of course, your family's been involved in real estate here in the Wheeling market for decades, and you decided to join the family business. Mom and Dad both work there, and I can relate a little bit, having worked with my mom and dad for a number of years in the law practice. And what made you decide to come back here and get involved in the family business?
Well, you know, I was down at WVU, and I just wanted to get into sales, and I just thought, what an opportunity to come back and work with your family, and not everybody gets to do that, and I do love the Wheeling area, and I just thought what an opportunity it is to work with your family and also raise a family in Wheeling.
You know, obviously there are a lot of rewarding parts of working in a family business, but also some challenges from time to time, and I've found it to be a lot more rewards than challenges over the years. But what are some of the things that you found to be most enjoyable, and then some of the things you found to be challenges as well?
Well, you know, in real estate and in sales, there's a lot of, every deal is different, and I think the most rewarding thing is for me is to go into my father's office or my mother's office and get some good advice. And there were times where I had to bounce some things off them, and it really was helpful. And as you grow older and you do have different ideas and mature, I think there were some times when I wanted to maybe do a couple little things differently, but everything works out, and it's always worked out, and it's been a great experience. Maybe
one of those different things you may be talking about, a new office on the way for Paul Associates. You already have, of course, the office in Wheeling that's been here for years, an office in Moundsville that's been here not as long, but a number of years now, and soon to be an office in St. Clairsville. Yes, so we're very excited about that, and we are going to be opening that office in January. It's been, we've been thinking about this for a long time, and one of the things that we get, probably weekly is, do you work in Ohio? And we always have to refer, which we have a lot of, competitors that we, work with on a referral basis, but, we were hearing it more and more because of all the growth with the oil and gas, and I think that we wanted to open an office sooner than later, and I think January 1's a good time of the year. It starts the year off, and we're right now in the planning stages of our office and our marketing and stuff like that. So it's exciting news for us. Now, you mentioned oil and gas. You know, how has the oil and gas industry and people coming in perhaps working here as a result of the oil and gas industry affected the real estate market, and what can we expect to see moving forward, do you think?
Well, you know, I haven't seen too many oil and gas workers buying property, but what it's done is we have a lot of entrepreneurs that have purchased properties and rented those out, and I think probably in the last 4 to 5 years it's been a very good market for the rental market. And I think what you do see now is it's a little flat right now because they're not as active as they have been in the past. But with the news of the cracker plant being constructed in the next couple years, hopefully, I think you're going to see a huge demand for rentals, and you'll see some new construction and a lot of development. I really do.
What about the residential real estate market? When we're talking sale, like you said, the oil and gas folks may come in and rent more, and that causes some entrepreneurs to want to buy. But what about people just looking to buy homes? I mean, what do you think you're going to see here in the Valley? And of course, your company opened in a St. Clairsville office, maybe more land out in Ohio than there is here in the Wheeling area. But what do you expect to see with the residential market? That's
a great question, because what you're going to see is a lot of new construction, and that's what we need desperately, not only in Wheeling but also in St. Clairsville. There's not many new developments that have opened up here for years, and with Ohio having a lot more developable property, just geographically, I think you'll see a lot of developments open up. Not to mention, there are some developments opening up by the Highlands, and that'll also help. But we do have demand for new construction. Existing sales right now are good. I mean, our year is up from last year, but it's kind of a deceiving number. We have more homes on the market currently than we've had in the last 5 years. Our inventory is high, but it's complicated. But I think you'll see definitely new construction pop up. It'll be just driven by demand. There's not enough houses in the market, and we need new construction.
And the area is an older area in terms of not just population, but also the homes. I mean, there just hasn't been in the last several decades a lot of new developments, as you mentioned, so something that we're kind of in need of here.
Yes, and I think you'll see the counties expand the services. They'll expand the water, they'll expand sewer and all the utilities, because right now that's probably one of the biggest conversations we have with developers is, we would put a development here, but there's no water and there's no sewer. And I think they make that huge investment of putting in homes. They want to make sure they have all the public utilities to offer their the clients, and that's probably the biggest hurdle we have is infrastructure. And I think once they expand the services, it'll be much better for the communities.
Yeah, and I think that's something that we'll see going forward as we continue to have people looking at these issues. There are different council committees that are studying these issues, so that'll be something we'll keep an eye on, of course, and see what continues to happen and what continues to develop here in the local area when it comes to the residential real estate market. We need to take a break. When we come back, we'll continue talking with Lee Paul IV about the real estate market here in the Valley. Stay with us on the Jamie Bordas Show.
Every day, more than 70,000 puppies and kittens are born in the United States. Just one female can contribute more than 2 million offspring in 8 years. At the Tiffany DeLess Spay and Neuter Clinic, we are trying to help. We offer reduced cost services to income qualified families from all over the Ohio Valley. We understand that the cost of owning a pet can be overwhelming, and that stress multiplies when they do. Call the Tiffany DeLess Spay and Neuter Clinic or visit us online to find out if we can help you.
Fighting for homeowners.
Fighting for workers.
Fighting for children.
Fighting for mineral owners.
Fighting for patients.
Fighting for policyholders.
Bordas and Bordas, fighting for justice.
Welcome back to the show. We've been talking with Lee Paul IV of Paul Associates here in Wheeling. We're going to continue talking with Lee, and we've been talking about the residential real estate market. And one of the things, Lee, that I think we really need to look at when we're talking residential real estate is what's going to get young people to come back here. You came back to Wheeling, where you grew up. I did. But a lot of people, they look at housing options and what types of living they want and where they want to live. What do you see in terms of what's going on here in the area that may attract young people to come back here to the Wheeling area?
Well, especially if you're a contractor or in the trades, where you will see this cracker plant just employ a ton of people, and a lot of contractors around the, I'd say the 30-mile radius for sure. But that'll bring people back. The idea of the cracker plant. Also, what's going on downtown Wheeling with the health plan coming in, you're seeing kind of a rejuvenation of downtown and South Wheeling, and I think that'll also, it's gaining energy, and it's becoming, something of that I know that people are talking about, in all different circles of how downtown is coming back. But I think what's going to bring them back too is we need to improve the housing. We need to have other options, not only apartments and townhouses and condos, but we need to get families in houses, and I think that's going to really help the economy out locally. It'll put a lot of people to work, and I think you'll see, I think you can see that happening slowly. But when the cracker plant does get under construction and they announce that it is definitely coming, I think you're going to see a big influx of building. I really do.
You mentioned downtown. One of the things we continually hear is that while downtown Wheeling doesn't really have the type of environment or atmosphere or living structure that young people want. They want to live downtown, they want to be able to walk places, they want to be able to bike, they want to be able to perhaps even own an apartment or condo as opposed to renting one, and there's really not any downtown condo apartments for sale to any large extent. Do you think we'll see any of that as we move forward?
I think so. I think once the health plan does the construction of their facility, I think that you'll see a domino effect. I really do, because if they're having 400 employees there, they'll need places to eat, and some will, you'll see other businesses sprouting up around just to gain some market share for whatever they do. But you will see some residential living. I think there is the land to do it. I just think that a lot of contractors or developers are just kind of wait and see mode. And but I think it'll happen. I really do think you'll see some apartments and condos pop up, and it'll be exciting to see it. But I think you'll see it.
A lot of new regulations in the housing market after the 2008-2009 housing crash. One of the things that we saw in our law practice is a lot of appraisers were being telegraphed by the lending institutions as to what number they should come back with to make sure that these lending institutions could provide the loan to the people. So they would say, appraiser, make sure you appraise this at least $150,000, wink, wink, and then it would come back at $150,000. A lot of what led to the crash of the economy. So a lot of regulations put in place since then, but now sometimes we've seen maybe these regulators are stepping on top of one another.
That is for sure. I think the main thing is that there needed to be a correction. And you're right. Contract came in at 89. It's funny how the appraisal came in at 89, and that needed to be corrected. But right now, what's happening is a lot of the appraisers are probably overstepping some things that they should be doing. For instance, the home inspector comes in first, does a home inspection, everything goes through well, and then all of a sudden here comes the appraiser. He appraises the house, but he notices, well, there's a crack coming down the foundation here. We might need to get an engineer. Well, after the home inspector gave it a clean bill of health, here comes the appraiser contradicting what the home inspector did, so it makes it get another inspection. And what it does is, before you used to get loans through 30, 60 days. You can get a closing within 30 to 45 days if you wanted to. Now it's pretty much 60 to 90 days, and I think it's because after the appraiser gets done with the appraisal, then it has to go to an underwriter. And a lot of the underwriters aren't local. A lot of the underwriters are across the country in different areas where they don't know the market, and they may have a disagreement on a comparable sale that's in that appraisal or something on there they don't like. So everybody's kind of stepping on each other's toes, which making the process a lot longer. It's been frustrating, but I think hopefully in the future, we've voiced some concerns with all of our legislators about this. Dave McKinley, we had a meeting with him 2 weeks ago at our board office, and basically expressed our concerns about overregulation. And I think now that they have a handle on this, and that, our sales are up this year. They're not great, but they're up from last year. I think they can probably, ease on the regulations, and we can get these things done faster instead of waiting 90 days when it could take 45 days.
Before we let you go here, you're a Mountaineers fan, you're a Dallas Cowboys fan. Of course, your uncle Chuck Howley, great Dallas Cowboys player, MVP of the Super Bowl. I think only guy still maybe in a losing effort, right?
That's right.
To be MVP, which is unbelievable to be on the losing team and still be the MVP. You have to really dominate a game. But let's get some predictions here. Okay, Mountaineers rest of the year. They got an off week before they go play BYU in D.C. at FedEx Field. How are the Mountaineers going to do this season?
I think they'll do well. I think they'll beat BYU. I think, my honest opinion, I think they'll be 8-4. I think they'll lose on the road to Texas Tech. I think they'll lose to Oklahoma State on the road. I think they'll lose, believe it or not, at home to Oklahoma. It's just a team that we've never been able to beat. And I think it'll be tough to win at Texas. So I think we'll beat Baylor at the end of the year at home, but I think it'll be 8-4. That's my honest opinion.
All right, now a quick Dallas Cowboys prediction.
Well, I'm a huge Cowboy fan, and I honestly think they'll be a 9-7, 8-8 team. They're young still. They got a rookie quarterback, a rookie running back. I just think they're a few players away, but I hope I'm wrong. I hope I'm going to the Super Bowl. I hope.
Lee, thanks so much for being here today. Appreciate you coming on the show, and good luck to you and your firm as you venture into St. Clairsville.
Thank you very much, Jamie.
Thanks to all of you. Stay with us. We'll be right back. We'll be talking sports here a little bit more on the Jamie Bordas Show.
At Progressive Bank, our loan process is unique. It's personal. Our local lenders ease your mind and help you get the loan you need and deserve. Progressive Bank. Personal bankers with millions to lend to local families and businesses. Come in, Ohio Valley. We're lending.
People always ask me what it means to be a dealer for the people. For the people is a simple idea. It means we believe that everybody deserves to drive a nicer, newer car. This belief drives the entire team at Robinson Auto Group to care more, to try harder, and to work smarter. Whatever's keeping you from driving that car you want, I guarantee we'll try our best to help you. We're Robinson Auto Group, and we're the dealer for the people.
Progressive Bank understands borrowing money can be a daunting experience. Our local lenders ease your mind and help you get the loan you need and deserve. Progressive Bank. Personal bankers with millions to lend to local families and businesses. Come in, Ohio Valley. We're lending.
Welcome back to the show. It's that time of the week where we talk sports. Been doing a little bit of that already with Lee Paul while he was here and talking about the Mountaineers and Cowboys, but time to give our Sports Person of the Week award. And this week it is going to a professional athlete, Antonio Brown from the Pittsburgh Steelers. And why not? Because AB was awesome on Monday night. 8 catches, 126 yards, 2 touchdowns to start off the season. And of course missed the last playoff game last year with a concussion. Steelers got knocked out of the playoffs by the Denver Broncos, who went on to win the Super Bowl. Who knows if the Steelers could have been there if they had Antonio Brown with them. But, to have this type of performance in the first game of the season, big touchdown catch on 4th down early in the game. Dance, a little bit questionable in the end zone, 15-yard penalty for the dance. Of course, he spent some off-season time on Dancing with the Stars, but great overall performance by Antonio Brown. And now, of course, this week, the big game against the Bengals, the team that actually injured him in the playoffs last year by giving him the concussion with the illegal hit. And now, very early in the season, a big divisional game for the Steelers against the Cincinnati Bengals to see if they can, perhaps avenge the injury that they gave to Antonio Brown last year. Bengals started off 1-0. Ravens are 1-0. Of course, the Steelers are 1-0, so a very important divisional game early on here to see who's going to grab a hold of the AFC North as we move forward. With the game being at Heinz Field, I like the Steelers in the game this weekend. I think Big Ben will have another very, very, very exceptional game like he did this week. 300 yards passing this week. Got out of some tough situations, drops a snap because of a low snap and still ends up with a big completion, finds his receivers. Didn't seem to miss Heath Miller like I feared that he would, so that was a great start. And, of course, D'Angelo Williams, a great game running the ball, and the line looked really impressive. We'll see how the defense holds up against a better offense this week with the Bengals, but I still like the Steelers in this one. And, of course, the Browns, trailing at the bottom of the AFC North, 0-1 and RG3 out for the year. The Browns just never seem to not only be doing very well, but also to have any type of luck. They go out and get RG3, and now he's out for the year, so we'll keep an eye on that. Speaking of Pittsburgh sports, the Pirates really struggling here to end the season. Garrett Cole just placed on the disabled list. Have we seen the last of Garrett Cole in a Pittsburgh Pirates uniform? Big high draft choice, supposed to be the stud pitcher, #1 guy, has had some good years in Pittsburgh, but now contract up, hurt at the end of the season here on the disabled list. Will they re-sign him in the offseason? It may be time to move on. So it'll be interesting to watch in the offseason as to whether or not we've seen the last of Garrett Cole in a Pittsburgh Pirates uniform after a pretty disappointing season, not only for him, but a step backwards really for the Pirates after being a playoff team the last few years. Looks like they're going to miss the playoffs now, still 5-6 games out of the wild card and a number of teams there in between them in that spot. So looks like they're not going to make it this year, which is disappointing after the high hopes that people had for the Pirates this year. Some big college football games this weekend. WVU, of course, as we said, has the weekend off before getting BYU next week in D.C., but Ohio State has the big game in Oklahoma. You don't see many of those, Big 12, Big 10 matchups like this, marquee games between programs that are so high profile, but Ohio State went out to Oklahoma, and Oklahoma already has one loss on the season. This will basically do it for any chances they have for a playoff spot if Ohio State's able to beat Oklahoma out in Norman. Ohio State, of course, important for them to get a win because if they drop a game here, they still have that Big 10 schedule with, of course, Michigan at the end of the season, and I have picked Michigan to beat Ohio State. I also picked Ohio State over Oklahoma in this game before the season started. I'm going to stick with that and say Ohio State wins this one, and I'm still going to stick with Michigan beats Ohio State at the end of the season, but it'll be interesting to see because that Ohio State team has looked awfully impressive with JT Barnett and crew or JT Barrett, and crew at the helm there. And Alabama with a big game this week, facing Ole Miss, a team that's beaten them the last 2 years. Alabama looks a little bit unstoppable, but Nick Saban and Lane Kiffin had some issues on the sideline this week. Hopefully they've cleared that up for their sake, but if not, then they could be in trouble against Ole Miss again. And Notre Dame, a big game, home primetime game, unusual to have a primetime game, but 2 of them this year in South Bend. The first one being this weekend against Michigan State. Notre Dame, of course, had the opening season loss to Texas, needs to have this win to stay in playoff contention. I like the Irish in this one to beat Michigan State at home at night. Lastly, in sports, Tiger Woods announced he will return to the golf course in October. Who would have thought back in 2008 we'd be here in 16 with Tiger not having won another major? If he can get one next year, I'll say he gets several. But he's got to get that first one first, and I think he's got to do it next year. It'll be interesting to see if his health is okay as he returns to the golf course in October. So we'll keep an eye on that as we move through the fall here. Thanks to all of you for joining us again this week on the show. We'll see you each week here with a guest, our legal tip, our quote of the week, our community champion, and our sports person of the week. See you again next week.